On Wednesday, the 7th of March 2018, the Asbestos Safety and Eradication Agency, the Australian Government's peak body, advisory body on asbestos issues, related a report analysing 11 asbestos building removal and 7 contaminated land removal projects around the country. This report showcased a series of findings based on the learnings from these projects. The Asbestos Safety and Eradication Agency was established in 2013 to facilitate a national approach to managing asbestos in Australia. Preventing the risk of asbestos exposure is the agency's core purpose. When releasing this report earlier this month, the agency's CEO, Mr Peter Thye, confirmed the only way to reduce asbestos-related diseases in Australia is by preventing exposure to this deadly substance, and that means completely removing it from our community. However, in showcasing these projects, which the agency classes as best practice examples of effective and safe approaches to asbestos removal, it fails to acknowledge that none of these projects have actually removed asbestos from our community. Instead, by landfilling the asbestos removed from these sites, these projects have simply shifted the problem from one location to another and from our generation to another. Landfilling of asbestos, as with many other wastes, is considered best practice. The Asbestos Safety and Eradication Agency themselves believe that landfilling is commonly accepted as the best way to dispose of asbestos to minimise risks to the environment and public health. However, our country's acceptance of landfilling continually fails to acknowledge the true economic and environmental impact this has. Let me assure you, landfills are a threat to our health and to our environment. Landfills release toxins into our soil and groundwater and become environmental hazards for years. They produce leachate, which is the liquid formed when waste breaks down in the landfill and water filters through the waste. This liquid is highly toxic and can pollute the land, groundwater and waterways. They produce greenhouse gases, in particular, that wreaks havoc on our environment. They release fibres into the atmosphere from surface contamination caused by burrowing animals and erosion, and have a serious effect on wildlife. Landfill devalues land and results in the loss of land that could be used for other purposes like housing and industry. Landfills require ongoing management and monitoring it for years, and its use simply means we are passing our issues from one generation to another. In 2014-15, Australians produced 64 million tonnes of waste. That's 2.7 tonnes per person. Most of that was from construction demolition and commercial industrial waste. Our population is expected to grow to 40 million people in 2050. This will equate to over 100 million tonnes of waste each year. Australia has a waste problem, yet nothing has been done to address this. Local government is arguing with state government. Apparently, it's not a local government responsibility, but a state responsibility. State governments are fighting amongst themselves. Just this week, the Queensland Labor government sought to reintroduce a waste tax ultimately aimed at stopping New South Wales rubbish from crossing its border and making Queensland the eastern seaboard's waste dumping ground. In Queensland, we're taking up to 90 B-double trucks a day full of New South Wales waste, deadly and toxic asbestos and rubbish. Well, I've got a message from New South Wales, for the New South Wales government, who continue to transfer their waste into my backyard of Ipswich. You can keep your own shit in your own backyard. On a federal level,
Senator,
this government—
Senator, there is generally standards applied to language in this chamber, and that is not a word that is accepted here, and I would ask you not to use such a word again.
I won't be using it again. I've had my say. On a federal level, this government and the Labor Party continue to sit on their hands. The Asbestos Safety and Eradication Agency themselves highlighted the growing waste problem and called for action by all levels of government. In December 2016, the federal government was given the opportunity to not only tackle our waste problem head-on, but lead the world in asbestos waste eradication through the introduction of thermochemical conversion technology, a process which destroys asbestos fibres and produces a non-hazardous, inert, recycled material that can be used in a broad range of construction application. This technology has a 20-year development history with regulatory and environmental protection authority approvals in the USA to convert asbestos and to destroy PCBs. Yet, instead of embracing this technology and exploring its application in Australia, this place has instead chosen to do a nothing approach. Is this because there are questions around the veracity of the technology? No. Is this because there are concerns regarding the project proponents? No. Is this because asbestos isn't a major issue in our present society? No. It is simply because the wheels of bureaucracy have ground to a halt. For a government that prides itself on innovation, this is simply unacceptable. The Turnbull government's own innovation statement acknowledges it has often been easier for government to continue with the way things have been done rather than embrace new technological opportunities. It's time Malcolm Turnbull and his government introduced this innovation to save communities and people's health in Australia. Australia has the highest per capita incidence of mesothelioma in the world, with an average of 700 deaths each year. The rates of all forms of asbestos-related disease is up to 5 times this number, resulting in approximately 4,000 deaths per year. Australia was one of the highest per capita users of asbestos-containing materials decades until the late 1980s. And we now have to deal with the significant legacy issues associated with that use. This legacy relates not only to product contained within our homes, our workplaces and even our surrounding infrastructure, but the legacy created by our ongoing reliance on burying this hazardous material and continual contamination of our land. If we choose to ignore the opportunity that thermochemical conversion technology presents to treat asbestos waste, we are condemning future generations of Australians, my grandchildren, your grandchildren, to deal with this problem. Innovation is not just about robots and applications for our iPhone. It's about creating cultural change, embracing solutions for existing problems and ultimately rectifying our mistakes. And I will say that One Nation, myself personally, will continue to badger this government for this thermochemical technological to come to Australia. I think it's so important, and just recently hearing about the fires in the state, that we have an asbestos problem there now. What are they going to do with it? Bury it in somewhere else? And then we have the landfills that will never ever be worth anything or can never be built on. This is a program that will actually clear land and get rid of the asbestos in our society. One fibre, that's all it takes, one fibre in someone's lung, and it's not a matter of are you going to die, it's a matter of when you're going to die. Wake up and start dealing with our problem.
Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you.